Welcome to The Music Reel. I'm your host, Nicola Burton. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Australia's most famous stand-up comedian, the multi-award-winning Vince Sorrenti. Vince, thanks for joining me today. How are you going?
I'm very good, Nicola. How are you?
I'm very happy to see you again. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
Well, great to see you again too. Welcome to my. They can't see us, but I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. Welcome to my home.
Well, look, what a crazy year. What an absolute corker of a year. Now, you are traditionally the hardest working comedian in this country. So I can't imagine what it would have been like for you in lockdown. Tell me about what that was like to not work for a few months.
It's brutal. It's ongoing. It's still brutal. I do a couple of hundred shows a year. So, and in fact, when we're recording this, which is last day of September, this is usually right in the middle of a really busy time of year for me. There's a lot of corporate events, conferences, a lot of sporting events, grand finals, finals, games, sports, hospital. There's a lot of gigs around this time of year, and there is zip, nada, nothing. The last big live gig I did was St. Patrick's Day, which was 13th of March, and there were 1,600 people there at the ICC in Sydney. And after the gig, we got the notice from the state government that things were shutting down and there'd be no events over 50 people, and that came down to 10 people, and then there was just absolutely nothing. So look, it's been brutal. And my other income source, apart from stand-up comedy, is I host a show called Hello World. It's a travel show, and the whole travel industry has been shut down too. So I've had 2 kicks between the legs this year, so I'm not doing too good at the moment.
It's so great. The travel and music industries, you really want to be a part of our industries, right? We're the two that we just copped it the worst out of everyone, and we'll be the last to recover, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I really plead to anyone listening to this. I mean, we can get 150 people into a room now, and we can, we need to get this sort of social distancing down to one person per 2 square metres. I think that's going to make a difference too. But we need people to come back into the market. I mean, that is really the hold up at the moment. I think that there are some green shoots. There's been some small events recently, some small live events, but there's so much uncertainty. Well, this is the big thing with everyone. No one knows. No one knows what it's going to be like in a week, in a month, in a year. I hate to even say that. It's frightening to even say that. What's it going to be like in a year? So people aren't making plans. And most of the gigs I do get planned 3, 4, 5 months, even a year in advance. So I spent most of March just sort of answering the phone, gigs cancelled, gigs cancelled, gigs cancelled. And they all pushed it out to sort of like, oh, look, we'll do it in, September, October, November. And now they're all ringing again saying it's cancelled, it's cancelled, it's cancelled. So like, it's, I don't know what to do.
March the 13th, I cancelled $6 million out of our agency system for the next year. And then, I think people in our industry, all we've been doing is rescheduling and cancelling, like people in the travel industry. And when you think about our industries, Vince, it's $112 billion every year. And that's 6.5% of our GDP that's not circulating in our Australian economy this year. Yeah. So it's not going to just affect us. There's going to be a flow-on effect. So what are your thoughts in terms of, I guess, some sort of not just recovery, but it's almost like a renaissance, how we can get people back out there and rebuild this industry or reboot this industry? Because, it's pretty grim.
It is grim. And not just from a financial point of view too. I think that in times like these, people really need entertainment. People need to have a laugh. And like a very common subject amongst us comics is what kind of material people will want to hear when this is all done and dusted, because at the moment there's so much great material out there. Comics really work best when large groups of people are being affected by the same thing. So everyone is thinking along the same lines. And right now, the whole world has got the same issues going on. This is the perfect time for comedy. There's so much great material about that, about how we're all dealing with lockdowns and homeschooling and social distancing and mask wearing. I mean, you know, and toilet paper fighting. I mean, there's so much material out there, but we're kind of there's no audience. So look, how do we crank it up again? It's a really difficult question to answer. I don't know. It does start with the social distancing, though. It does start with people being allowed to be in venues and you know, sit in rows and watch people on stage doing their stuff.
Look, I sort of say to myself, Nikki, if you could go back to New Year's Eve last year, what message would you give yourself? I think, number one, don't book that flight to Athens. That's probably not what you would do. What do you reckon, Vince? What would you say to yourself if you went back to last New Year's Eve? All right, Vince, this is what you need to prepare for next year.
Yeah, well, I would say what's about to unfold in the next few months is not a science fiction movie. And that's what it's really been like. I mean, in February and March, I mean, if you picked up a paper from March in December last year, you'd think it was like a bad sci-fi movie. I mean, the whole world just ground to a halt. And for some people, it's happened over, and I feel so sorry for Victorians. It's just been a disaster down there. Time they changed the number plates, by the way, to place to be.
Not the place to be. But Vince, you actually you trained in the comedy clubs in New York, didn't you, in the late 80s? You wouldn't want to be in New York either, would you?
No, that's all. I mean, that's ground to a halt too. God, you wouldn't want to be in New York. The number of deaths and infections they've had, it's look, there's green shoots, and I'm a very positive thinker. I've tried to use this time for other means, and look, very early on in the piece, myself and a few other people in the industry, some event organisers and some AV people got together. We built a studio in Mascot here in Sydney, so we're able to stream live events, and I've hosted close to a dozen now national and international awards nights, and we've got a big video wall, a stage and lecterns, and everyone's in black tie. You wouldn't tell you weren't in a 5-star ballroom, and we can interview winners in LA and London and, you know, Hong Kong and Auckland. It's been plus all over Australia, of course, and we're having a lot of fun with that. The comedy's difficult because, you know, I've only got very small numbers of people in the studio, like 10, 15 max. So the comedy is, you know, we still build the energy up, but certainly not the same as, you know, working in a big room with a lovely crowd. So look, we're getting on with that, and the people I'm working with, they really own that space. They believe, rightly or wrongly, that that part of the market is always going to be there now. They think that there's going to be a slice of the corporate, the conferencing, the event market that's now and into the future always going to be online and streaming. And they've decided we're going to resource this and own it. So they're doing it better than anyone. So that's been good. I've also had time to get on with some writing and TV projects, and there's very exciting things happening in that space as well. Look, I've been very fortunate. I've been on a great wicket for a long time, and as I said, I'm doing a couple of 100 gigs a year, so there's been no shortage of work, which has been great, and it's occupied my time. But it has made me push other stuff into the background, because why would you leave a good wicket to strike up somewhere else? Well, now I've had that time, and I'm making some other things happen. So I hope to look back on this COVID era as a positive turning point in some instances. Of course, always willing for the old wicket to come back.
Look, I think so many people agree with you, Vince. It's been this opportunity to stop, catch up on the things that you haven't had time to do before. Sounds like you've got some great projects coming up that we can actually look forward to, perhaps.
Absolutely. There's some very exciting things I've wanted to do for years in the streaming and TV space. So, watch this space.
We will be watching you say. So everyone who's listening, make sure you go to vincesorrenti.com and make sure you stay connected with what Vince is doing. So whether it's streaming, whether it's online, and we've got everything. Look, I've got my fingers crossed right now, even though you can't see me, so that these shows will come back sooner rather than later. Vince Sorrenti, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been a pleasure.
It's great, Nicola, and look, hats off to you, mate. It's terrific that someone is documenting this era, because I think it's historic what you're doing, and garnering all this sort of feedback from people in the community, in the industry too. So well done. Happy to be a part of it.
No, look, I'm so happy. And this is the story. I'm not going to stop telling it until we're all back at work. So this could go on for years.
Good on you, mate.
Thanks.